Central America.
Good afternoon, NPS stations.
He sat there and argued with me for a while. Another car drove up, police car. And about the time this guy got out of the car and got close to my car, this cop snatched me out of the car on the pavement. Tossed me over behind his car, and they both had a hold to me. And put the right cuff around my right arm and had my arms around behind my back. And he told me I was tussling, you know. He made me mad when he snatched me on the pavement. He said, if you don't quit, trust me, we're going to beat you with these clubs, boy. And if I said anything smart or anything, I really don't know, because I had been drinking. And seeming like that I kept on, that they just let go of me. And I just kind of, you know, turned around, and they started beating with the clubs. And I said, hey, I said, quit hitting me. I said, that's enough, don't hit me no more. I guess I told him I don't know how many times, I don't know when. I told him I don't know how many times quit hitting me. But I don't know when they quit hitting me. I don't know if I was laying down or still standing up. But then they put the cuffs on me and threw me in the back of the car. Took me to the city jail, and I told them that they had broken my jaws, I was bleeding. They take me to the hospital. They told me to shut up, they'd beat me some more. So, they took me back there and threw me in the floor. And I got up and started pounding on the door. And I said, no, I said, they might beat me some more, so I just lay down in the bed. About 3 hours later, they come and got me. Took me to the hospital. Yes.
3 hours later, you say?
That's what the doctor reports had been said, that I was arrested around 2:30. When I take to the hospital around 5:30.
They, both policemen, deny this. The fact is, one of the policemen had his blackjack in his back pocket during this time. He said he did not take it out. Didn't realize he even had it in there. In no way did they, to their statement, say that they did hit the fellow with anything.
Well, Mayor, do you believe that he could break both jaws by falling to the pavement?
I sure do, with all three of them falling at the same time and him falling face down. And one of the police officers said that they all fell at the same time. The fact is, he was on top of the man when they fell. And he could have easily hit the pavement or the asphalt and broken his jaws by hitting face down. And evidently that could be what happened.
All the reports I have so far is the officer had a bout with him. I mean, all three of them fell down and on the pavement, but the officer said they did not hit him with any clubs or anything of that nature.
Can you tell us why you didn't get out of the car?
Yes, sir. I was drinking, and I felt like I was very drunk. I was pretty well loaded. They didn't know that. They never even gave me a balloon test. They didn't know I was drinking, but that's the reason why I didn't want to get out. I didn't want a DWI ticket. But the man never did give me a DWI ticket.
"21-year-old Fort Wayne Harrelson is back in his hometown of Andalusia, Alabama, after being released from a hospital in Montgomery today. Hospital officials say he won't be able to eat solid foods for the next 6 weeks. His family has retained a lawyer to look into allegations that he was illegally beaten by op police. maybe court action will resolve conflicting reports of what actually happened early Saturday morning near here. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, Op, Alabama.
I was just trying to fill him out a little bit and not do an overhand right, and I found it was very effective. So then I knew all I had to do was find another opening for it. And my uppercut's one of my better shots.
I see this from another angle as well, Ken.
Okay, once I had him hurt, it was just a matter of putting punches together, and I was very lucky. God was with me, and I trained very hard. And I have a very good trainer in Bill Slayton. And it seems as though Eddie Fuss doesn't know him as well as he thought he did.
There's a case, too, where, as you say, that you were fortunate you landed the big bomb so early. Had you landed that late in the round, he might have had that 1 minute between rounds to recover.
That's very true. I was very fortunate to land it early, and I was very fortunate to catch him on the button with it and have a bunch of combinations to follow afterwards.
Bill Slayton, was this any part of any strategy in your mind? You said you didn't. You told me you didn't think he'd knock Bobby out.
I didn't think so, but he put it together. I thought he'd bust him up. He started that first, but I thought Bobby was a little strong. I guess Bobby takes a long time to warm up, and so by us getting him early, it was to our advantage.
The alarm came in about 5 p.m., which was some boxes outside in the corner caught a fire, and the little alcove there, it just created a suction and went through the building pretty fast. So we appreciate all these departments and came to our aid. And of course, it's a total loss, and we sorry we couldn't put it out for them.
I guess the 2 fellas home, they look pretty sick.
Them and all them nights, and Bill beat or whatever. Them and all them players stayed in them.
And now, the flag, the Hitchcock Memorial Award for Outstanding Christian Leadership in Athletics, 1977. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Hitchcock Memorial Committee to present it to you, and for all of us to take note of what an outstanding young man that you are. Congratulations.
Texas had won it 6 years in a row, and they've not been able to scratch since that time. And I think, you know, Coach Royal and Coach Broyles also, both of them have dropped out of the major college coaching. They're athletic directors. I think they're a loss to our profession because they're great coaches and great men, but we're going to have one of the toughest conferences in the nation next year and in the years to come, and I think it's indicative of the balance that we have in our league.
Did it surprise you that Houston won it last year?
Not really. We opened with Houston, and they got off to a good start. They defeated us. We had a couple of real key injuries that affected us, and they got a little momentum going. But I said before the season that they'd have a good chance to because they had a good psychological advantage coming in. Nobody knew anything about them, and they were a good football team.
You had a couple of those close games. That one, well, like I say, Auburn was a close game, came from behind in the last quarter, and then again at South Carolina.
In fact, those were one-point victories, both won in the fourth quarter, 15-14 over Auburn. And South Carolina had us down 17-0 with 12 minutes to go, and we won that one 18-17. That's indicative of the kind of young men we have playing. They just have great character, and they won't give up, and it's a pleasure to coach them.
Well, over the last year, we've had We had a study conducted of the communication requirements in the city of Montgomery. Quite obviously, the system was antiquated. It needed replacing. And of course, that's a very expensive proposition with a system as large as the city of Montgomery would require. I think the overall estimate would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000. Of course, our allocation annually is some $5 million for the entire state, and we could not meet the total requirement in 1 year. As an alternative, we proposed a staged program where we'd provide somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 each year. This year, in fact, the 77 plan that was approved in somewhere, I believe, in January, $97,000 was made available to the city of Montgomery for their communication system. Today, I would say the city of Montgomery is virtually assured of receiving their first grant in a series of grants over the next 2 or 3 years.
Utilities or education may be the cause of a special session of the Alabama legislature. Governor George Wallace has threatened to call the lawmakers back to Montgomery next Tuesday if the Alabama Supreme Court finds the governor does not have the constitutional authority to roll back utility rates. Should the court act in the governor's favor, there might still be an education budget to consider in a special session. The education budget is presently in a conference committee to iron out disagreements between the House and the Senate. The 6-member committee, 3 from the House and 3 from the Senate, came together for the first time today since the legislature took a recess 8 days ago. The Senate pumped up the House version of the education budget from $974 million to the billion-dollar mark when it added some $14 million in absolute amendments and another $10 million to satisfy constituents in their districts. The House refused to accept the measure with the 54 added amendments, so the budget landed in the conference committee. One of the major stumbling blocks in getting a budget rests with the changes the Senate made in earmarking pay raises for university faculty members. Conferees agreed at mid-afternoon today. It was far from agreement. Will there be something definite by 6? You mean today? No, replied Senator Mike Perloff of Mobile. You can be assured of that. Passage of the education budget must come Monday, the final day of the current session. The pressure is on the conferees and the legislature to see that an education budget is passed in this session. If not, they'll find themselves in special session. The legislature meets Monday, the Senate at 9, the House comes in at 10. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
$20, and according to the figures that we have here, Livingston State pays $10,199. University of Alabama pays $11,000. I think the attacks that are being made by college presidents today on the cost of living increases for college personnel are almost incredible. When we think of the fact that some of these people who are now making these attacks live in mansions that are better than the governor's mansion, that are catered by a staff of people who serve the college president and his family, where fleets of limousines and automobiles are available at his whim, where airplanes are available. It's incredible that a person with this kind of living standard would attack basic cost of living increases in terms of faculty salaries. Public school teachers are being given cost of living increase. Junior college teachers are. And we cannot understand, except just for the sheer loss of power that these college presidents seem to think that this would cause them. We just can't understand the knee-jerk reaction of many of them against giving people a little more money with which to pay their utility bill.
Who are the outside forces?
Well, I feel like there's a number of them. I think the news release this morning of Dr. John Porter saying that it would be better if we didn't have a budget, if we didn't subscribe to the language that's in the trust fund budget. In this language, all it says is earmarking salaries for college and university professors. It's unbelievable. Dr. Porter would, as a paid lobbyist and also the head of the Commission on Higher Education, who's paid by the taxpayers of Alabama, would come out and suggest that the Alabama Senate and the Alabama House were wrong in their parts as far as the budget. And it would be better if we killed the budget instead of, it'd be better if we killed the budget and not have this language in there. And all in the world it's doing is just giving everybody a fair shake that teaches school in the universities and colleges in this state.
Do you feel, Senator, that there's a contrivance to force a special session to the legislature?
Well, in looking at all the possibilities, yes, George, I feel like there might be. Certainly we hear talks all around the legislative halls that we are coming back in special session on Tuesday. And we certainly can't discount the fact that maybe this could be an instrument to bring us all back. And I don't want to see us come back. I want to see us pass this budget Monday.
Are there any indications in the conference committee that the administration would not like to see an education budget passed and use it as a means of having a special
There is
session?
no indication in that conference, but some of the three House committees have drawn the line. And that line is if we don't agree to their demands first, that we cannot have a budget.
And would they not be speaking for the administration?
Well, in the past, those in the House have spoke for the administration a lot more than those in the Senate.
Have you had any contact at all with the governor in the last few days?
I haven't had any contact with the governor. I probably will have some.
The sales of newspapers in Alabama is subject to the Alabama sales tax. In the past, this department had worked out an agreement with the newspapers themselves to collect this tax rather than to force their newsboys to collect it. This agreement worked very satisfactorily over the years until the large number of cities began to pass sales tax, making the paperwork so voluminous to the newspapers that some of them began to question whether it was to their economic advantage to continue to collect this tax for their boys and report it to us. The court pointed out that we did not have the authority to refuse to license a minor, that the law provided that if we were to bond or require a bond of every itinerant vendor, and that newsboys were clearly itinerant vendors. Therefore, we should require of them a bond and then license them. And if they fail to pay the tax, then we would call on the bond for it rather than try to collect it from a minor. This department is now enforcing that provision of the law, as pointed out by the court, as we are required to do. This is not limited to newsboys, but it covers all itinerant vendors. There are a large number of people who give parties and sell through these parties. These are itinerant vendors. We are requiring them now, before they secure a sales tax number, to have a bond with us.
Yes, there is an investigation underway at the present time. Our office has received some calls from some of the people who've invested money in the bank and organization, and we're looking into the information that we received in those calls.
Aside from calls, have you had any letters from investors?
We have had no letters from investors, not to this office, but we have had the opportunity to read a preliminary report that was issued from the Comptroller of Currency's office in Washington, D.C. And based on the information in that letter, we are looking into some of the things that were brought out, not only in that letter, but in the calls we received from subscribers.
Investors and the public were told that the bank would be built on this spot. At one time, there was a sign saying, "Future Home of the United Memorial National Bank." After several months, the sign disappeared. At this point, it is not known how many people purchased shares of stock in the bank, and investigators are trying to find out exactly what happened to the money. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
The number of registered voters in District 8 was 10,033 at last count, but a steady flow at the Board of Registrars today will probably increase that total, adding to the possibility of a good turnout for the District 8 council race. What do you think the turnout's going to be in District 8 for this upcoming council race?
Well, in the April 12th election, we had some 12,000 voters to turn out in District 8. And District 8 in the past two elections which were held there, have had a high turnout rate. And so judging from that, I would say at least 6,000 people will turn out to vote May 24th.
District 8 is usually a pretty good district for voting response.
That's correct. In the past election, they have been the highest. Like I said, it was approximately 5,000 people who turned out in the April 12th mayoral election.
There's been some confusion in particularly the past mayor's race about who can vote and where they can vote. Has that been pretty well straightened out for this one?
Yes, it has. We ran ads in the paper, and there will be a complete voters list of District 8 run in the Tuesday's Journal paper. And we hope that people will check that list to see if their name is there. There are 3 voting places in District 8, 8A, which is Southeast YMCA, 8B, which is Peter Crump School, and 8C, the Seth Johnson School. And the people who live in that vicinity, which is District 8, will be able to vote in the upcoming election.
Officials are determined to make the upcoming election a smooth one, so that the city's most responsive district will once again have a seat on the city council, and so that seat will be elected by a healthy majority of this district's voters. From District 8, Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News.
We're concerned with the licensing itself of a ministry of a church. We've, in fact, put the amendment in the House version of the bill that is now in the Senate to require our schools to meet fire and health inspectional requirements. They already do as schools, but some people felt more comfortable with it this way. We're concerned that there's a violation of the 14th Amendment in that anyone operating less than 4 hours a day does not even have to be inspected. They don't have to meet these requirements, and they do not have to be licensed. We feel it's a violation of the First Amendment, free exercise of religion, when the state comes in and attempts to license any ministry of the church that is carried on in the church premises. And then also the fact that they have free exercise to come in any time at their desire and inspect, which is kind of the fishing expedition approach. The Fifth Amendment, we feel, is being violated, and several cases have been upheld in this regard.
It's in our minds that possibly if they come and begin to dictate to us our preschool and after-school programs, their next step will be to move into our churches and tell us what we're going to do when our people go out on visitation, what we're going to do on Sunday with our children, and how we're going to run our nurseries with our our little kids, and we're deeply concerned about this. We see more and more bureaucracy today, more and more government control, and we feel like they're eroding our freedoms and the privilege that we have as a ministry, as parents, to guide our children. We want the best standards, we want the highest standards, the best material, yet we don't want the specific control of pensions and securities coming in and telling our ministry, we want you to do this, 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 and this in these areas.
Are you worried about what this could cause in the future, or do you have concerns about the way the Pensions and Securities Division is run now?
Well, let me just show you here in the manual. It says, where there is a board, the board's responsibilities shall include but not need to be limited to the following. Develop a plan for selection, orientation, and rotation of board members. Now, they're telling a church how to operate its own board, and that they've got to come up with a plan satisfactory to DPS. Now, they may say, well, we don't actually do that, but that's what the law says they can do any time, and whether or not they're applying it, we're interested in the fact that there is the potential there at any time.
I live in 880. I've got an awful lot of friends that teach this. There's one basic thought. I feel that I'm qualified.
Some of the people across the bypass are quite concerned with the traffic congestion at Woodley. I know they've got several problems, local problems in town and country. Some of the problems perhaps in 8A, which is over in the McGee Estates area, are drainage.
Recently, we've moved from the commission form of government to the city council form of government. With Montgomery, the size of city it is, being the capital of the state, I believe the city should have home rule. And with home rule, we would not be hindered by a time-consuming process of having local legislation passed at the State House.
The people in District 8 are interested in parks and in recreation and in a strong police force. They're interested in all of these types of things. I have represented District 8 in the presentations before the Citizen Participation Group to secure money in the budget for District 8 parks and recreation.
And those issues that I've come across are traffic congestion, the need for a library, the need for some planning in regard to future expansion of business and residential areas, and how they relate to traffic flow, the growing crime problem that we are having in the Montgomery area. And
what do you see some of the problems are for District 8?
Well, I think that our problems are primarily improving the present existing services that we should render, as cleaning out the ditches and the potholes, and clearing the entrances into the streets where they won't have blind spots to reduce accidents.
First and foremost, I would have to say it would be crime prevention. Protection for all of our citizens, and this also would include not only the law enforcement agency, but also fire protection, hospital services, paramedic program, continuing to be strengthened in these areas.
Political science and sociology. And I think these three areas and the prevention or fire prevention matter. Most about I'd like to see
if the bill was ruled constitutional, but that he would call the lawmakers back to Montgomery for an immediate special session if the court ruled the rollback was unconstitutional. A Senate committee killed 4 major bills in Wallace's utility package, which he said was designed to hold down future utility increases. Senator Joe Fine, President Pro Tem of the Senate, says there is not too much enthusiasm in the upper chamber over the special session. Out of one session into another session, what is the feeling in the Senate?
George, I think one of disappointment. I think that's true for all of the legislators, not only the one that are supporting the utility package, but I think everyone feels like that we have been down here enough this year, and I'm sure that the people of Alabama feel that we've been in session enough. The package that the governor's reintroducing has been killed 3 times by the legislature, and I think it's just merely a means to having an issue to run and seek office on, and I'm very disappointed that we're going to be down here wasting the taxpayers' money on an active utility.
Are there any feelings amongst the senators that you may take an extended recess before going into it, or will you go right into the special session?
George, I think a lot of it depends on what we do on the educational budget. I don't know
the conference committee is still meeting on the education budget. If the education budget is not passed, we'd certainly have to come back and pass it. But if we're down here merely on the utility package, I think I would hope, I can only speak for myself, that the sentiment would be that we would adjourn without pay and go back home and attend their business and let the people of Alabama have a rest.
Do you feel that the governor is using this strictly for political reasons with the hope of running for the Senate?
I think everything the governor does is political, and that's certainly true in this package.
For a while today, it appeared that the legislature might be in for another special session over the education budget. But around 5 o'clock this afternoon, a conference committee assigned to work out the disagreements over the budget reported success.
The House and Senate conferees have met again today. In fact, we met at 7:30 this morning, again at 1 o'clock, and again about 2:15. And we have resolved the differences between the two houses and have signed a conference committee report. The report will be the House-passed bill that was passed by the House of Representatives several weeks ago, with a number of amendments that were incorporated in either the Senate bill or on Senate floor amendments that total some $4 or $5 million, so that the actual conference committee report is the House bill as passed by the House of Representatives with approximately $5 million of increases in such areas as adult basic education of approximately $1 million, to the Council on the Arts, public libraries, Peace Officers Association, and a few areas like this, and 4 or 5 other of the appropriations, but a total of approximately $5 million over and above what passed the House.
However, much can happen here in the next 6 hours, and much usually happens during the closing hours of a regular legislative session. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News, the State Legislature.
Council on the Arts and Humanities, Public Library Service, the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission, the Maternal Child Health Care, the Livestock Judge and Arena, the East Alabama Regional Child Development Program, $100,000 for examiners of accounts. We have earmarked $3.2 million for burned out schools as recommended by the Department of Education as being legitimate.
And we could have just saved a lot of time and the taxpayers' money by just going ahead and taking the House bill just like it was, because for all practical purposes, that's what we're approving here tonight. Is that correct?
Senator, we made a few changes, and I assure you that we tried to make others, but we weren't able to do so, and we did the best we could. And I'm sorry if you are not satisfied.
Well, Senator, it is a fact that I'm not, and I think several others aren't. And
I'm not satisfied either, Senator, but it's the best we could do.
Well, I tell you what, Senator, if you'd be willing to do, we'll just take up and talk a while, and then as much as a good governor is going to have us come back, I think that we have enough capable people that we could write a real good education budget, because I really don't think that much of this one. And in as much as we're going to be back, you know, at the good governor's wishes, well, we just add this in here, and I think we could come out with something that everybody'd be proud of, Senator.
Ellis, Mr. Fine, Mr. Gilmore.
"17 ayes and 16 noes. The Senate stands in recess till 11:50 p.m.
You approved the journal for the last legislative day, and we adjourned sine die at 12 o'clock.
10, 9, 8,
The gentleman from Walker moves that dispense with the reading of the journal and adopt the Rules Committee report and approve the journal for the 30th legislative day. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Those opposed, no.
Mr. Speaker,
Ayes have it. Gentleman
Speaker,
from
I
Walker.
move that the House adjourn sine die.
The gentleman Walker moves the House adjourn sine die. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. The House adjourned sine die. Ayes, 11 noes, and the substitute for the substitute is tabled. And now the substitute motion by the gentleman from Washington. All the members voted. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote.
Governor Beasley, the usual thing following a legislative session, how would you assess it?
Georgia, there have been some good things and some bad. The legislature passed a great deal of legislation, probably the largest percentage of bills that they've ever passed, but as far as whether it's been a good session or a bad session, I think you'd have to go back and see what failed and what legislation did not pass, rather than maybe gauging the performance strictly on how many did pass. Obviously, there's a lot of disappointment in the failure of the utility package. This failure has occurred more than once. In fact, it's been quite frequent over the past several years. There were other bills, the lead law and others that didn't pass that I thought were extremely significant. And I guess that those failures would be more paramount in my mind than maybe some of the successes that came through the session. By and large, all the local bills passed. Most of the general bills passed. In fact, I think you'll find it's closer to maybe a half of the total number of bills that were introduced, which is probably the largest percentage of any session in recent Alabama history.
Interest in Alabama. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
That, of course, Governor George Wallace addressing the joint session of the Alabama legislature tonight, and we would like to say that tonight's video coverage of the joint session was provided by the Alabama Educational Television Network. George Mitchell is standing by in front of the Capitol now, and George, I wanted to ask you a couple of things before we have to go. Did you see any of the senators walking out, or did you hear anyone talking about the senators walking out of tonight's session?
No, Bob, I thought that the governor was well received tonight. I believe he was interrupted some 10 or 12 times with applause. There was quite a number of utility folks, not the high echelon, but the average person, we might refer to them, hard hat people that were in the audience tonight. But as far as the legislature, I think they were very polite, and I didn't see anybody walking out at all. No, sir.
I noticed also that the governor made mention of a future political run, and he said that he was not making this an issue. What is the feeling from members on the floor of both houses about George Wallace and the political future?
Well, Bob, in some of the interviews that we've done over the past few months, that
Crystal's what you're hungry for. WSFA TV 12 Montgomery.
Due to the following special program, The Price is Right will not be seen tonight. This is a WSFA TV News special report. Governor Wallace's address to the joint session of the legislature. Here now is Bob Howell.
Good evening. Alabama Governor George Wallace last week decided that he would find out whether or not he had the authority to roll back utility rates charged by Alabama Power Company by $91 million. He waited for an opinion from the Alabama Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that he did not have that authority. We're going now for a special session of the Alabama legislature as Governor George Wallace addresses a joint session of the House members and members of the Alabama Senate.
Governor Jerry Beasley.
Ladies and gentlemen, the joint session will come to order. It's my pleasure at this time, ladies and gentlemen, to present to you His Excellency, the Governor of the State of Alabama, the Honorable George C. Wallace.
Governor Beasley, Mr. Speaker of the House, Joe McCorkadale, member.
Alabama, the law says that when a utility tells the Alabama Public Service Commission that they're going to build a $500 million plant, a $383 million plant, that may not start in operation and producing electricity for 10 years from now, but the customer has to start paying this very day. They said the Farley plant in Dothan, Alabama would cost $383 million. They started adding that to the power bill. It has cost over $1 billion and hasn't been put on the line yet. And the people of Alabama have been paying every single cent of it and haven't used one bit of electricity from this particular plant. In my judgment, the investors ought to pay instead of the customers or the consumers, as I said a moment ago. I'm introducing a bill that leaves under the control of your governor and no one else. And I believe the people of this state trust me in this matter to have an audit, to appoint a committee, to audit the books, and to subpoena and take evidence of every contract agreement and everyone concerned with the matter of the Alabama Power Company doing business with them, and let's find out who they do business with at what cost and whether or not the people of Alabama are getting a fair shake. I want such legislation under the control of the governor, because I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a fair and impartial audit made, and the auditing company will never have audited a utilities books in the past in order to qualify to do the auditing of the Alabama Power and Southern Company and its subsidiaries and affiliates.
Want to say that some have criticized Governor Wallace by saying that Governor Wallace is hunting him an issue for some future race. I want to tell those who said that I don't need any issues for any future race. I don't need any issues.
Well, I agree with some of the things the governor said. I agree that we as members of the legislature ought to do everything we can to help control the cost of utilities. And I hope that the Senate is allowed to vote on these. I think some of the governor's comments are unfair in the criticism that he made of the whole Senate because the bills were killed previously in committee by a record vote, and it's publicly known how those votes were cast, and in fact the General Senate has had nothing to do with that in the past. So I think that was somewhat unfair, but I do hope that we can pass some significant legislation that will help in the area of utility rates.
Do you think the package that he's offered is significant legislation?
Yes, I think it's significant legislation. I have some doubt as to whether or not it will have the desired effect of reducing utility rates. But I plan, under the circumstances, to support each of those bills in hopes that they have a good effect.
How do the senators feel? Are they going to go ahead and pass them out of the Senate? Or there was talk today of possibly a walkout on the governor, which of course did not ensue. But is there bitterness in the Senate to that degree?
I have not detected any of that at all, and I'm in the Senate, and I've seen every one of the members of the Senate every day, and I've not heard a single person mention walkout.
Well, I must say that it had absolutely no effect on me. As the governor pointed out, his utility package does not promise to reduce utility rates. And I think that what is really happening is that the governor is holding out the proverbial pie in the sky to the people of the state of Alabama. I don't intend to be a part of that charade, actually that misrepresentation to the people. The previous 4 sessions of the legislature, when we have had the opportunity to deal with this particular package, have yielded nothing. There's nothing on the horizon which indicates that the Senate is going to react in any way differently this time. I think it's a cruel hoax on the taxpaying public of Alabama to call us into session, to waste the taxpayers' money for these 30 days which we'll be here, and eventually nothing will be accomplished.
Do you think that the governor took the Senate as a sort of a whipping boy tonight?
Oh, well, absolutely. I've watched the career of Governor Wallace for a number of years. In fact, I supported the governor for a number of years, and when he has a forum, he likes to operate, and he needs somebody to whip on, and I thought he was in rare form tonight. He did a good job. And I'm glad to see that he looked like his old self a little bit tonight. So he did a pretty good job, I think, of using the Senate for a whipping boy tonight.
What about his utility package? Is it going to get through the Senate?
Well, I don't know. I imagine some of it will, probably some of it won't. You know, I don't drive the mule, I just try to ride the wagon.
Do you have any idea why he, as you say, misled the people of Alabama?
I suppose it's not for me to judge the motives of the governor. He made reference last night to the fact that he was a candidate for the United States Senate, and I think both you and I can draw our own conclusions about that. But his motives have to be his own, and he is the governor, and it's not up to me to speculate about all his motives. But I do know he is a candidate, and I do know that he is a very political person, and that's bound to have some basis, be part of the basis at least for what he's doing here.
All right. In essence, are you saying that he is using this particular issue to launch his campaign for the U.S. Senate?
Well, you said it very well.
And I'm asking you.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, but yes or no?
You make me think I'm on the witness stand again here, like where I've been all last week in the Washington area. Certainly, I can't help but believe that's certainly a motivation to the governor.
I want to compliment our paramedic units. I think they do a great job for the city of Montgomery, and I hear many, many compliments on them. These are very active units, and we have 2 vehicles now, and they're wearing out. The city of Montgomery is in the process of buying 1 more unit. We need another unit, and citizens in Montgomery are very helpful and are stepping forward and trying to raise the money for this unit, and we're grateful. We have Rescue 91 and Rescue 92, which are our present units. We will replace these pieces of equipment of these units now. Then we will keep one of those units in reserve so we can put it online when one of the 2 units, the new units, need maintenance. But it will not be the creation of the 3rd unit. We just do not have the funds to do that at the present time.
Before long, except those who have stood up in the Senate, and there are some who have stood up in the Senate of Alabama. So you who talk about walking out, you better worry about the people walking out on you when you run for office next time.
Joint Resolution 3 by Mr. Jones and Gilmore.
Senate of Alabama might be able to defend itself or to explain the other side of the story to the people of this state. And I'd like to move that we would make that request.
Is there any objection?
Official to
Without
the new
objection,
media.
so ordered.
I don't know. Just show it by unanimous consent.
Let the journal reflect that the vote was unanimous. Purpose, Chairman.
Mr. President, with the Senator's permission, I would hope that we could add one other thing to that request, and that is that if those channels who carried the request...
Signing the bill to committee, if the chair feels that there's any germaneness in putting any or all of the bills in the Committee of Business and Labor...
Reason that we can move on with these bills and have this as our paramount issue in this special...
The rules very clearly state where these bills will...
The governor's utility package has been introduced into the House and assigned to committee. The measures were among some 15 that were introduced today in the House, added to the 140 already dropped into the hopper. Introduction of the governor's package was the last order of business today before the House recessed until tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, the same time the Senate will convene. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News, the state legislature.
So I've been working on some legislation, a bill that the Legislative Reference Service gave me about a week or two ago, and I've sent a copy to the County Commission and to the Mayor and to this Mr. Little, the Chairman of the Study Committee, to have a city-county jail authority so that they could go in and it would be appointed authority by the courts and the County Commission and the legislative delegation to appoint people on the authority to go in and take over the jail, issue bonds, administer the jail. In other words, take the jail situation and put it into the authority like we did the airport authority, the parks board, things of that nature, and so that they wouldn't be worried with this situation. And they could issue bonds and build a new jail that would be necessary.
Good evening. Possible hijackings in the Gulf of Mexico brought about a 5-state conference of law enforcement agencies from the Gulf Coast states, from Florida to Texas, today in Mobile. On the heels of much publicity over the disappearances of 2 luxury yachts, the Pirate's Lady and the Flying Dutchman, owned by Montgomery and John Dite, 59 men from 6 agencies will try to solve the mysteries. Norman Lumpkin reports.
Boat owners charged today response to possible hijacking reports are too slow. 6 agencies in the area have to see who has jurisdiction when the reports come in. And today, the red tape created by that problem was discussed. Some marine enforcement officers said the different agencies didn't start to share information about missing boats until numerous news reports recently about 2 missing yachts, the Pirate's Lady and John Dite's Flying Dutchman. The Dutchman's disappearance took up part of today's discussion in a report of what may have been a hoax.
Yes, I can. I think I probably should interject a purported conversation. I received a call last Monday, the 16th, from a Watertown, New York newspaper man who had received a call from a man from Deer Park, which is just outside of Watertown, who indicated he had talked with Terry Stone in November and again in February, November 76, February 77. And of course, we realized that the Flying Dutchman disappeared the end of October. And after listening to the information that the newspaper reporter passed on to me, I asked if there was any reason for this man to be calling, and the Watertown News had just reprinted a Los Angeles Times article on hijacking. And most of the information, in fact, I would have to say all the information that the man spoke of concerning the conversation, that is, information that would not be available had he not read it someplace or physically talked to him or actually talked to him, was in the article.
Louisiana millionaire Charles Slater was here today hoping to pick up a lead on the disappearance of his luxury yacht, the Pirate's Lady.
I feel that the conference is basically involved in trying to get the different agencies to a point to where that when the supposed or an actual hijacking does occur, that they have much better coordination in the between the agencies, the governmental agencies involved, and they can act properly and react faster to the problem than what they have in the past. And I believe that if they continue to discuss it enough among themselves, that they will eventually be able to come up with something productive to where that this would definitely help the situation and try to prevent these things from becoming a total washout in regards to being able to find what has happened. It has either been sunk by the people who took it and or it has been taken off of the continent. We have done a very, very intensive search outside of the country in the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and Mexico, and we have come up with, at this point, nothing conclusive as to the whereabouts of it. We feel that we have the situation so well known in these areas that if it had been in this area, that they would have had to take it out now because the so-called heat or pressures would be on these people.
Officials warn boat owners today to know their craft's size, silhouette, and stress that they be cautious of other boats appearing to be distressed in the Gulf, and to always report their departures to someone. Marine law enforcement officers said today's conference would go a long way in first establishing a secure line of communications between agencies along the Gulf Coast, and in an effort to solve the problem of suspicious vessel disappearances along the Gulf Coast system.
The Chase Conference was called to help iron out red tape that cropped up during the searches for the Pirate's Lady and the Flying Dutchman. But until the bureaucratic entanglements have been ironed out, yacht owners will have to find ways to protect themselves. One man who plies the coast with his yacht says that he's going to put a .50 caliber machine gun on his boat to keep from being hijacked. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, Mobile.
Thank you, Ivy. The watchword on voting in District 8, which is traditionally the most active district in the city of Montgomery, is apathy. It seems like the voter turnout is turning out low here, as it was all over the city during the last election. Just to give you an idea, at Crump School, whose precinct has about 2,600 registered voters, we have between 160 and 200 who have voted there. At Johnson, which has about the same amount, 2,600, we have between 100 and 150. The Southeast YMCA, which is where I am now, has had, between 500 and 550 voting today. However, the Southeast YMCA's precinct has about 6,800 voters in it, and that's still below 10%. Pollsters around here are urging all citizens to come out and pull the lever in the voting machine. It won't be a lot of trouble. And as one person said around here a few minutes ago, it looks like apathy is taking the place of democracy in Montgomery politics. Live from the Southeast YMCA, Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News.